Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Finding Freedom. Today, we're going to talk about, what does con artists, thieves, and religion all have in common? Well, let's think about it, right? Con artists normally like to lie and do all these things, and they change your reality, right? Thieves are after your money, and then religion, tells you a story, but the stories are repeated the same way in almost every religion. So let's talk about it, right? So the con artist will lie, so on and so forth, etc. But they might work with a thief. So think of it like going to the mechanic shop. You go there for a simple oil change, and then all of a sudden you have a unicorn horn and 50 other things that need to get repaired, so on and so forth, that are through the roof. But, however, does it really? Or is it just a part of their system to get more money out of you? Now, how does this all work? Well, there's always a ruler, right? So if there is a specific, boss, or let's say a holding company that owns a lot of companies underneath them, they can tell them what to do and give them the script, kind of like what sales does for their salespeople in the sales department of a business. Now, this is what we're going to say, this is what we're going to do, so on and so forth. If they ask this, do that. If they do that, do this, so on and so forth. But now with ChatGPT and technology, you can not only do things yourself, but you can ask questions to push back. Now, if we're talking about religion, religion does both, right? They tell you a great story, they ask for money, they own probably half the hospitals, and then they control who goes in and out of them, so on and so forth. I mean, if Jesus went around touching the sick, if that's his name, because it came from Latin, but it was translated from the Greek. So if you say Jesus, but it was Greek, it would be Jesus, right? Because Zeus was the god of Olympus, who came from Kronos, so on and so forth. And the translations came from that, yes. And then Latin took over, and then it was broken down into English. So what's a lie? What's fact? What's fiction? Where is the balance in the world? Well, are people in the religious communities all bad? No. Some might be good. Do they all need money? Yes. But why? What world and lie do we live in, right? Because, we have inflation, which is another word for taxes. But if they told you that taxes were going to go up another 20%, you'd probably lose your mind and we'd have another Boston Tea Party, yes or yes. So with word disassociation, they can go ahead and say, oh, this is called inflation, not taxes, which, to the untrained mind or to the inquisitive mind, will just say, okay, and you pay it anyways, right? So if you're doing that there, if it's good for them there, why can't everybody do it? Oh, because, we gotta, stick together, band of brothers, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's talk about veterans, right? When we get trained, one of the things they say when we cross the street is look up, down, left, right, which is the symbol of a cross, right? Or your cross hairs, right? When you're shooting a rifle, right? So you got to understand the wordplay and what's being done and said, not only to you, but to others. And remember, there's a golden rule. Do unto others as you shall have them do unto you. So if they're feeding you crap, feed it right back. If they're feeding you poison, give it right back. If they're trying to come after your money, your wealth, your family, etc., I guess you're going to have to do the same to them. Now think about this, right? Because, it's depicted as a good thing, but the mental health community says, oh, all these things are happening to men and women and this, that, and the third. Well, have you read the side effects? Majority of the side effects that come from those pills is suicidal ideation, along with a couple other things. And you wonder why people are offing themselves, etc. And then they wash their hands because, they like to crazy make. You can ask Debbie Guerrero, who said it for herself, that because she's a part of that community, that's what they do, right? So if that's the case, then what are they doing to you and your children? Because all they're doing is taking the social engineering that went into you. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, hey, MD, how's it going? Take these pills, so on and so forth. Don't worry about the generic brand. That's not as good as this brand, which is giving them a bigger cut, so on and so forth. Don't go to this church, go to this church because it has an amazing show, even though they say the same thing and they can't get creative. Don't go here to this dealership, go to that dealership. They're trusted, so on and so forth. Well, who's getting a cut? Who's getting a commission? If you follow the money, you'll see everything else, and then the deception, right, will reveal itself, right? And then you can see the connections between everything, right? Because as everyone listens to everything, right, and then reports back, etc., what are they saying? Who are they saying it to? What vocabulary are they using? What language are they using, for crying out loud? And why do they feel so threatened? I mean, I was watching a documentary on the Freemasons, and it didn't matter what religion you came from, you just had to believe in one thing. But then, of course, you have churches that'll kick you out for listening to things like Bad Bunny, Jay-Z, DMX, hell, I don't know, to pick a country singer, Garth Brooks, so on and so forth, etc., because they don't like it, which means not only did racism not stop, but it still exists today, along with discrimination. Why, when you apply to a job, they ask you if you are male or female? What's your sex? Do you have any things, so on and so forth? Because they're trying to reduce liabilities and get more information from you so they could pick who's in their company, which is not a bad thing. But don't you think that discriminates a little bit? I mean, think about it. If you're a veteran and then people are told that veterans are a kind of a pain in the ass to deal with, they're not going to hire veterans. So you have veterans in construction jobs, so on and so forth, and doing the mundane work because, well, only a select few get to do what they want to do, right? Or the chosen few, or how do I say it? The privileged, or those that have the right network and connections, that may have friends with money that could put in a good word for them. Because let's face it, if you came from nothing and you know nothing and you know no one, where are you going to go with your life? Right? So this is where strife comes in, right? They get to lie to you because you don't know any better. You don't know the truth. They get to take your money because you don't know anything about finances or mechanics or anything else, or you don't ask questions about medical equipment. They get to tell you all these beautiful stories and everything like that to get you to believe something and to pretty much panhandle, right? Which is like begging on the street. Hey, I'm going to say something dope and then hopefully you give me money for it. Don't worry. And if it doesn't work out, it's your fault, not theirs. So on and so forth. So take this with a grain of salt when you start doing stuff and giving people money, because remember, it doesn't matter where you go. Remember, they can't preach in an empty church. They can't work in an empty garage, right? If you don't have any employees, what are you going to do with business, right? So get off your high horse, whoever you are, right? Maybe give people a raise and appreciate those that work for you. Maybe they don't want to run the company. Maybe they do want to do something with their life, etc. Create an environment in which people want to live in, succeed in, and be in without any resentment. Because I said this once before, how do you part a Red Sea? You make the other side blue and then you make them fight against each other. That chaos and negativity gives energy to the atmosphere, right? Oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm Republican, I'm left, I'm right, I'm liberal, I'm this, I'm that. It makes no sense, but all it does is, well, crazy make. And if you think that that's, well, the point of life, then you need to really look at who you're putting into position, who are the leaders, and who you're surrounding yourself with when it comes to putting certain people in fucking office, right? Who's protecting you? Oh, the cops look the other way. Why? Because they defunded the police. They got to get their money somewhere, and the criminal is very, very willing to pay them just to get by, and then they can look the other way, and now they're able to counterbalance inflation, taxes, and everything else. And guess what? If somebody says, hey, I want you to do this to that person, they'll do it, so on and so forth. Same thing with hospitals. If they actually cured diseases instead of treating the symptoms, they wouldn't have any patients to pay them, right? That's why they treat the symptoms without solving the problem. So if you look at the medical symbol in the United States, not the World Health Organization, that's the Asclepius, right? That's the symbol of healthcare, so on and so forth, etc., right? Keep the physical body alive. Whereas the scepter of Hermes is the symbol for thieves, crooks, conmen, pirates, messengers, and travelers, so on and so forth, etc. Look it up and Google it if you don't believe me. So I just wanted you guys to go ahead and get a little understanding of what those three have in common, because, well, there is a separation of powers, right? Judicial, legislative, and the executive branch. Why not there be one between these three? And then if you add that up, I guess it's 6. Talk to you guys later. This has been another episode of Finding Freedom. Peace.